Welcome to Sustainability Marketing, Lecture 7, Customer Solutions. Customer Solutions is the first C of sustainability, the sustainability marketing mix, the operational, the implementation of sustainability marketing. As discussed in Lecture 2, the framing of sustainability marketing, there are 4 Cs: customer solutions, customer cost, communications, and convenience. Here, in the first C, we will talk about customer solutions. In the first episode, we will talk about pre-purchase, use, and post-use solutions for customers. There are 2 learning objectives. The first one is to define and characterize sustainable products and services. The second one is to describe decisions that sustainability marketers make to provide customer solutions in purchase, use, and post-use. The structure is as follows. First, we will have a sustainability marketing story, mobility car sharing. And then we will talk about customer pre-purchase solutions, customer use solutions, and customer post-use solutions from a sustainability perspective. Let's start with the sustainability marketing story, mobility car sharing. Are you familiar with car sharing? Well, most of you probably share cars at home, in your family. This is a kind of informal car sharing. Here we talk about formal car sharing, which means that people not knowing each other share a car together. It all started in the 1990s, especially in countries like the Netherlands and Switzerland. When people thought about mobility and solutions to mobility, they, instead of owning a car, they started sharing cars together. Just a few people in the greater Zurich area and the greater Lucerne area. It became rather popular in the 1980s and 1990s in small countries like Switzerland, the Netherlands, Denmark, and also Germany. So the number of car sharers grew in the 1990s, but it still remained in a rather alternative niche because it was a local business with a few hundred or 1,000 people. But it worked well, nevertheless. Then, in 1997, mobility car sharing was established. It was a merger of 2 local cooperatives, the car sharing organization in Lucerne and in the greater Zurich area. This is the logo of the brand of the car sharing organization. The head office is in Lucerne. It's nowadays, you might say, a medium-sized company with 180 employees. And it's a very modern, customer-oriented sustainability company. What do they offer? They offer mobility solutions to private and business customers. Here you can see the mobility fleet. Different kind of cars for different kind of situations. You see, for example, the BMW for business customers. You see medium-sized cars, and you also see small cars like the Smart, for example. But you also see cars for transportation. So whenever you need a car, for example, to go shopping or to go for the weekend, you just join mobility and you just take the car you want. depending on the occasion. Altogether, 2,600 cars are offered by mobility car sharing in places all over Switzerland. All over Switzerland there are around 1,300 locations. So 80 to 90% of the Swiss population, 7 million people, they can reach a mobility car sharing organization within a couple of minutes walking. How do you use car sharing? Well, in the beginning, you get an electronic card called the mobility car sharing card. Then you just make a reservation either via the internet or via your phone. You just call up the center of mobility car sharing. You make a reservation and then you simply enter the car with your electronic card. Then you use the car and finally you simply pay. Usually you just pay online or via your bank account. How much is it to use car sharing in Switzerland? Usually it's 3 Swiss francs per hour, and in addition to that you pay per use. In the case of a medium-sized car like the Ford or the Opel, for example, it's 80 cents per kilometer. Well, that seems to be a lot, but it covers the total cost of driving a car, including the gasoline you need, including all kinds of services, including taxes, including maintenance, and so on and so forth. When car sharing is offered in Switzerland, in the past, the ecological and the social issues were really important in communications. As I said before, mobility car sharing is a very customer-oriented company. So in the last couple of years, they stress the individual benefits you have from car sharing. So, for example, it is transparent. You always have the total cost of driving a car. It is flexible. As I said before, depending on the occasion, you can use different kinds of car. So, for example, when you want to go hiking, or when you want to go for an outing, you just take a convertible, for example. When you go shopping or when you want to move, you take a transporter. Or when you just simply want to go around the city, you just take a small car like the Smart. It's very flexible. It's also cost effective. If you drive less than 5,000 kilometers per year, it is less expensive to join car sharing than to use your own car. That's a calculation mobility made. It's also very convenient. You get rid of many duties you have. Take, for example, paying taxes or taking care of the car, changing the tires, and so on and so forth. And finally, as a kind of auxiliary attribute, it is also eco-friendly. Altogether, I said there are 2,600 cars in Switzerland. As of 2012, mobility car sharing has more than 100,000 customers. So on average, about 40 people share a car. That is a kind of sustainability mobility pattern which you can transfer to the rest of the world. So even in China or India or Brazil or other places of the world, you can use this kind of sustainability mobility pattern. Mobility car sharing is a use oriented service. We will come back to that. Let's have a look at the pre-purchase solutions and the definition of sustainable products and services first. Sustainable products and services are offerings that satisfy products and services that satisfy customer needs and significantly improve the social and environmental performance along the whole life cycle in comparison to conventional or competing offers. There are 5 key characteristics of this definition. The first one is customer satisfaction. Even sustainable products and services have to satisfy customer needs and wants. Otherwise, they won't survive in the market. The second one is a dual focus. It's not only about ecological issues, but also tackling social issues. The third one is life cycle orientation. In lecture 3, we already covered the product life cycle from cradle to grave. So sustainable products and services always have to consider the entire product life cycle from cradle to grave of a product. The fourth characteristics are significant and continuous improvements. So it's not about tackling some minor social and ecological issue here and there, but it's about the key problems. So in the case of cars, for example, it would be to tackle the use stage. In the case of food, it would be about the cultivation and the agriculture, and to do something about the social and ecological problems in this stage, as discussed in lecture 3. And finally, and fifth, the competing offers. Sustainable products and services always have to compete with conventional products. And they have to offer a value added to substitute and to compete against conventional offers. Let's have a look at some customer solutions. We will start with pre-purchase solutions. In lecture 3, we already talked about coffee. And we realized that the first stage really matters in terms of social and ecological issues. So one of the problems is the low wages and the social problems in this stage. A solution to this problem would be fair trade, offering a healthy working environment and at least decent wages for the workers in the plantations. Another pre-purchase solution would be the Marine Stewardship Council. In lecture 3, we talked about peak fish, the problem of overfishing the worldwide oceans. The Marine Stewardship Council was founded in 1997, and it developed criteria for the sustainable use of this renewable resource. To fish no more than which can last forever. This logo was introduced in 2000, and ever since it has stood for sustainable fishery. Nowadays you have it in most conventional food retailers. Think about wooden products. Think about paper. One of the problems in the area of forestry is the unsustainable use of forest. To cut more trees than would grow. So the Forest Stewardship Council defines criteria for the sustainable use of this resource. It is one of the key stages in the product life cycle of wooden and paper products. So all of these are solutions in the first stages of the life cycle, the pre-purchase stages. Another stage prior to the use of the products would be the production, the manufacturing itself. And ISO developed a standard in this area. ISO stands for the International Standardization Organization. We have already heard about ISO in the context of LCA, ISO 14040, which covers the life cycle assessment methodology. ISO also developed another standard, ISO 14000, which stands for Environmental Management Systems. It is mainly about the manufacturing of products, and it stands for an eco-efficient manufacturing at the company itself. Another standard is SA 8000. Whereas ISO 14000 mostly focus on environmental issues, SA 8000 tackles social issues in the stage of manufacturing. It is very popular in industries like textiles, for example. Many companies in Brazil and in India are accredited according to SA 8000. So again, these are labels and solutions indicating customers that something has been done about the impact on these stages. And many customers start looking for these labels and certifications to make sure that they buy sustainable products. Let's move on and have a look at the use solutions. When you use a product, you want to make sure that it is a safe and healthy product. Take, for example, toys. When you give your children toys, you want it to be safe and healthy toys. Another important criteria in many areas is energy efficiency. Think about washing machines. Think about bulbs, for example. They use up a lot of energy, so energy efficiency has become a very important purchasing criteria, especially in times of rising oil and energy prices. Another key attribute of sustainable products and services is durability. It is the opposite of planned obsolescence, which attempts to shorten the product's lifespan, as we have seen in Lecture 3 and the movie The Story of Stuff. Here's an example, the untold story of planned obsolescence by the example of the light bulb. The light bulb is a good example for built-in obsolescence. So the manufacturers purposely built in a critical moment when the light bulb ends. There are two other types of planned obsolescence. One would be the psychological obsolescence. A good example for this is fashion. When certain textiles run out of fashion and they change from one year to the other. Another type is technological obsolescence. Many electronics nowadays run out of time in a rather short period of time. Think about mobile phones. A mobile phone maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you can hardly use it nowadays. Think about smartphones, for example. They change every 3 years or so. So this is technological obsolescence. There are millions, billions of phones and electronics which go to the dump each year because of this phenomena. This is a problem, and in the future we have to think about durability for all of these kinds of products. There are different kinds of customer solutions. We have already talked about and defined sustainable products and services on the one hand. In the case of sustainable services, we can differentiate between product, use, and result-oriented sustainable services. Let me explain that by the example of washing. A sustainable product would be an eco-efficient washing machine. So a washing machine which uses less water and energy. A product-oriented service in this case would be repair and maintenance of the eco-efficient washing machine. But still, the product itself is owned by the customer. And then there are use and resulted-oriented sustainable services. In the case of washing, it would be the laundrette, where you use and you wash the clothes yourself. Result-oriented would be when you bring your clothes to a textile care center and they wash the clothes for you. So you don't have a washing machine on your own anymore, you share it with others and you just buy the services instead of the products. So as we move from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, we move from material products to immaterial services. The idea is a kind of service society in the future. Let me give you another example. Mobility. Sustainable products would be cars with clean technologies, new engines, including hybrid cars or electric cars. A product-oriented sustainable service would be, again, repair and maintenance of these kind of cars. A use-related sustainable service would be mobility car sharing, a car sharing where you share cars with others. You don't own the car anymore, you just share it. And then finally, result-oriented sustainable services. In the area of mobility, it would be public transportation, where you don't drive the car on your own anymore, but you rather take a taxi or you take the bus and the train. Again, we move from material products and goods to immaterial services to reduce the impacts overall. The question is, do consumers accept use-oriented services, and in which areas? There's a very interesting empirical study conducted by a colleague, Ulf Schrader, in the 1990s in Germany. And he had a look at the consumer acceptance of use-oriented solutions and services in different product categories. And as you can see here in the chart, cars, washing machines, gardening equipment, electric drills, as well as gardening tools, there's a rather high acceptance to share these kind of products. In the case of children's toys, children's furniture, toolboxes and dishes, also kitchen, the acceptance is rather low. So this is a very interesting study with implications for sustainability marketing of different industries. So the car industry nowadays looks into new fields of business, sharing cars instead of buying cars. We will come back to that later on. Let's move on to customer post-use solutions. So what happens once you use the product and once you want to get rid of it? Well, let's have a look at the product life cycle again. It starts with extractions of raw materials, transportation, manufacturing, the distribution, the use. And usually you just dispose the product. A post-use solution would be to reuse and recycle the product, to close the loop, to make new stuff out of old stuff. A new certification and label is the Cradle to Cradle label by the Product Innovation Institute, showing to have a kind of endless loop similar to natural cycles. So these are the different kind of solutions offered by companies for customers from a sustainability perspective. Here are the review and discussion questions. What are different kinds of sustainable services? Explain by the example of washing. Second, what are the potential benefits and limitations of car sharing? Do you think it would work in your region? Why? Or why not? And third, is product life extension really useful for the environment? Give pros and cons for this line of argument and have a look at different kind of products. Here are the references, pages 173 to 185 of our textbook, Sustainability Marketing. And in addition, if you're interested in that, a very interesting book by Tim Cooper on longer lasting products, and by Jacqueline Ottman, The New Rules of Green Marketing. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.